Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the brand new episode of the JN Show. This is your host, Javier Novoa, coming to you from the Real Javier Novoa studio here in Dallas, Texas, welcoming you to what is probably the most important episode of the JN Show thus far, not speaking of the future, but speaking of our past pilot episodes. Today, we're going to discuss everything that, at least everything that I see pertinent in AI, especially going into ChatGPT. Is it going to destroy the world? Elon Musk seems to think that AI in general, and perhaps ChatGPT in particular, which has taken the world by storm as the fastest growing app in history over the last few weeks, could threaten your job, your livelihood, and indeed the very existence of humanity. I am reviewing our materials here, and from Noah Yuval Harari to Sam Harris to everyone in between to Mr. Musk, we have all the bases covered here of the general economic and philosophical issues that I can see with AI and how it is going to affect you and your business and how you need to position yourself in order to take advantage of and indeed benefit from what seems to be coming, or to the best of our predictions, what we think is coming down the pipeline on this film roll. All I remember is thinking I want to be like this. All I remember is that I know that I want to see how all of this can apply to my life and benefit my life and business, and how I can help you and my clients to benefit from whatever happens in the future and whatever is indeed happening now. Maybe I'm crazy, but we have to do the best that we can to project into the future so that we can take actions today. And then that momentum, that vibration, that motion forward takes on a momentum of its own. And whether we're right or wrong in our predictions, we are in the best position to change our trajectory when we are in movement. Because when you are in movement, ladies and gentlemen, you are in the best position to change your trajectory if it needs to be changed. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us get into this show. So what's going on basically in the news? This ChatGPT has got everyone talking about AI. All of the commercials that I see are about AI. Many individuals and even intelligent philosophers are saying that this is going to fundamentally change the way we work, the way we do business. Many of my clients are nervous and have been asking me lots of questions about AI. So I wanted to take a deep dive into the topic and see what we can glean from it in a way that can benefit us. As we said in our introductory videos, this channel, and indeed the JN Show, is not simply about philosophical banter and speculation. Rather, it is to involve ourselves in an actual live tabletop exercise to project different scenarios and then see how can we react in order to position ourselves to best benefit from whatever scenario happens. Just like is discussed in The Art of War by Sun Tzu, a great book that we should read and contemplate over again and again. So this ChatGPT, I just want to basically go over what it is. It was developed by OpenAI and it was launched in November of 2022. But it is now really taking off because a lot of people have been talking about it, a lot of people in business and so on and so forth. And it looks like it is a very quick way to basically scan all of the information that is both on the Internet of Devices and the Internet of Things, and to give very clear and succinct answers to questions, and answering those questions as if you were chatting to a human. And it does. There's no denying that it has wide applications to the organization of information and to the seeking of information. The question is, how good is it at evaluating information, and how good is it in choosing the correct information to apply to your day-to-day business? And indeed, there's argument and speculation as to the answer to that question. It is a member of a generative pre-trained transformer, or GPT, family of language models. And of course, we know what Noam Chomsky said about machine language, that it would always be brute force, that we would never have a true machine-trained language that could react in the same way as a human. And it seems that with this ChatGPT, that is also the case. They use human trainers. It mimics human conversationalists, but it is versatile. It can write and debug computer programs. Of course, this has been going on for a long time. And I would more aptly call it perhaps meta language or meta programming, because I don't think the term artificial intelligence is a truthful representation of what's actually going on, because I think that it lacks intuition, because only consciousness cannot be derived from the unconscious. Consciousness is not created. Consciousness simply is, and we know that from the spiritual and philosophical principles that we teach in this course. Therefore, bestowing consciousness upon something that formerly was not conscious, there are many philosophical problems to that, and I don't think that that can happen. Now, of course, hardware can organically develop, but the point at which consciousness is infused in that, I think that is outside of the control of any conscious agent, because consciousness itself is the axiomatic existence. And we can go into the philosophical reasons for that. But they say that ChatGPT does have limitations, of course, and it is getting better and better every day. But basically, one person online I was reading about actually asked ChatGPT, how can I start a business for $100? And it actually gave him instructions. It said first open an affiliate website and so forth. And he was able to raise, I believe, $65,000 within a very short period of time. And this is actually the use that we have to put to this technology. But before we actually put this technology to good use, and before we're actually able to clearly see it for what it is and see it as the tool that it is in our hands, within completely our control, before we do that, we have to debug, so to speak, from our brain the fears that are associated with it. And that's what we're going to try to do in this session. So what is Elon Musk saying? Because he has some very interesting perspectives and statements. He's very afraid of AI. For example, he says that AI humanoid robots will eventually outnumber people. Then it's not even clear what an economy means at that point. And we're going to go into the very clear economic explanations as to why this is not so, and what are the possible projected scenarios that could do damage to the community, but none of those can break economic law. And when we discuss economic law, we'll see that the economy can only be benefited by this in the long run. Of course, in the short run, there will be some chaos, and of course it will be spread unevenly, and that is where you and I can actually thrive and benefit from the chaos, because as we know, the Chinese word for chaos and opportunity are the same words. He likened his Tesla cars to robots on wheels. You could sort of see a home use for robots, certainly industrial uses for robots, humanoid robots. I think we might exceed a 1-to-1 ratio of humanoid robots to humans. It's not even clear what an economy is at that point. So, what about Noah Yuval Harari? Because his book is very interesting, Homo Deus. His book teaches that humanity, and I don't know if he means by this an individual group of humanity, I won't mention any names here, but many groups that he indeed himself is associated with would like to accelerate this, but I don't think for humanity in general. I think only for the benefit of one group, and then cutting the rest of humanity off based upon, well, I'll just leave it at that, but we can go more into that in my BitChute channel. But I don't think they plan it to be a benefit for all of humanity. But his book, Homo Deus, basically says that humanity is going to become like little gods. And then humanity as we know it will be finished because there's no true free will. And that this stuff will all have control over free will because it can predict, just by the speed of computing power, it can predict what your choice you're going to make. Therefore, you have no choice. You have no free will. And this, of course, goes interestingly into a lot of the philosophy that we talked about on this channel, but down a totally different vein here. So another one of the fears is what Sam Harris has discussed, and it does seem that artificial intelligence is like another arms race, and the main competitor, adversary in that arms race is China. But you have to understand that China is still very much behind the United States, to an exponential level behind the United States in technology. The only thing they've managed to do is steal our technology. And they're running into a very imminent geographic and demographic crisis. Rather, I should say a demographic crisis. And for this, you can watch Peter Zeihan, who is a very interesting analyst and futurist who studies geography and studies demographic trends, as to why China very soon is not going to be a very huge competitor. But we will just leave it at that. So let us just assume the worst case scenario, and as Sam Harris talks about, let's say that there was a black box, and due to momentum, and due to Moore's law and so on and so forth, which also they say is going to end very soon, but there was a black box that could make 20,000 years of progress in a minute, let's just say. And according to exponential mathematics, this is indeed possible. Of course, this proposition is laden with assumptions, and we can go into that. Progress in what? What do you consider progress? And so on and so forth. But let's just grant those assumptions just for the sake of argument, for the sake of discussion. Well, then indeed, if China were to have access to that black box, then they could end our society if they so chose to very, very soon. So that is one of the fears. All of these are fear-based, and there are certain individuals and groups which want to keep you in fear, because if you're in fear, as we know from the emotional scale, you will not be able to get out of your situation. You'll be stuck in a holding pattern of your situation. And the whole point of this show is to get us out of that holding pattern and to get your mind open and clear into the more spiritual levels of that chart of the levels of being, so that you can take right action at the right time and indeed glean inspiration from what we say here. So, but yes, basically what Harari is saying and what all of these people are saying is that it's completely deterministic. And I think this is the base assumption based upon which all of these fears can fall down on their own. Of course, I want to address each and every one of these fears philosophically and then argue as to why I don't think they have a basis. But the first fear, if we could get rid of that, I believe that the whole structure would fall. And that is about free will. They say that everything is determined, so therefore it is simply a matter of finding out the causes and the causal in the causal chain, and then if you can predict the cause, you can predict the effect, and therefore you could have indeed engineer humanity and have complete control over humanity. And that you really do not have an ego, you do not have an individuality, and therefore that in itself leads to egoic fear, which I can also go into in this show, which I will also go into in this show. So, what we know according to the philosophies that we study is that there is an element of determinism. The physical is atomic and therefore is deterministic. There are chains of cause and effect. And indeed, even though scientists have not yet been able to do so, they may find that the processes of the brain are completely material, and they may trace back all of those causes theoretically to the Big Bang. And then if they have the equation to the Big Bang, they will have an equation to be able to predict everything that would happen after the Big Bang. This is one of the chief arguments of Yuval Noah Harari in his book Homo Deus. So this is true on the physical, but we know that the physical, according to, if you've studied my course and you've studied my chart of levels of being, is only a very small part of this chart or the scale of being that I talk about. At the top, which is God and divinity, and at the bottom, which is physical. But putting all of that aside, this can all indeed be proved empirically and philosophically, but some people might reject it outright as something spiritual, even though the dichotomy between spiritual and physical is itself moot when we move up that scale. Some people may not accept that scale for whatever reason. All we have to do is look at physics to understand that the atom in itself is made up of subatomic particles, and it seems as if those subatomic particles will be reduced down further and further to nothingness. And it already is a given in physics that we are 99.999% nothingness. So physicality and matter is simply the 0.000